Good morning. Today is Wednesday, March the 5th, 2024. We are continuing our discussions on James, effective and efficient faith, as it will have a right view of existence. And we are today here on verses 16, 17, and 18, as it has to do with that which comes from God. The last one we did, which I think was yesterday, verses 13, 14, and 15, what has to do with the effective and the efficient faith will have the right view of existence as it relates to that which comes from humanity. Today is as it relates to that which comes from God. Now, we want to preface this that yesterday we learned that which comes from humanity is death. You can see it right in verse 15 at the ending there, where it says, "And sin, after it has been fully formed, fully gestated, will give birth to death." That's the best thing humanity can do. Oh, gee. That's incredible. That's terrible, isn't it? People don't like that. They don't like to hear that. We don't like to hear that, but that's the highest level we can rise to, is death. That's the best we can do in that sense. It's death. Humanity will produce death. And I challenge you to look all throughout history. That is indeed what has happened. What's happened with Adam and Eve? They rebelled and sinned, and were separated, died. Cain and Abel, death. All the way down through, right even to today, humanity left to their own resources or produced death. And that's not humanity outside of the church. That's humanity inside the church too. All you got to do is look at Calvinism, and old dear brother Calvin, who actually took pleasure in seeing those people killed because of their faith. And we're not talking about murderers and stuff being killed. It's fellow believers who didn't believe the way the aristocracy or whatever it was did. The church produces that as well, and it's not a good record when we get to it. But we are here to see what the difference is now between that which comes from man and that which comes from God. There's a big difference. God brings life. God brings life. The text says in verse 16, "Stop allowing yourself to be taken in tow, my beloved brethren." My beloved brethren, stop being deceived. It may be how the English translation translates it. I'm not quite sure on there. However, when we get into the word, it is, my beloved brothers, stop it. Stop allowing, passive voice, stop allowing yourself to be taken in tow. The word is deceived. And the Greek word for that is planasta, which means to be taken in tow. Taken in tow. Like the planets of the universe, they are in tow. Something is pulling them. And James says, stop allowing yourself to be taken in tow with thinking wrongly about God. That's it. Now he says here in verse 13, yesterday, when you are being tempted to sin, stop saying that God is the one that's doing that. He's not the one, he's not the source, and neither is he is an indirect source. He's not a direct or indirect source. It has nothing to do with it. God is untemptable, and neither does he tempt men to sin. So here he's starting this little paragraph out of 3 verses by saying, stop thinking wrongly on this. Stop allowing yourself to be taken in tow with the false thinking that's out there about this issue. So here, as in verse 2, and again in verse 19, he is addressing his hearers as beloved brethren. That means there is a strong sense of an emotive relationship between them on one hand, and then on the other hand, he's fixing, when he says that, he's drawing them in like this, and then he's fixing to hit them right between the eyes. He's pulling them in. Oh, let's talk about it. and then whop, he's going to give it straight to them. That's what's happening here. So he's giving them a very strong warning. Stop allowing yourself to be taken in tow, which means they were doing this. So they're to quit doing it. It is emphatic here, quite emphatic. It's quite a sense of urgency that's developed by the use of this precise word here, and it has to do with a lack of purpose or goal. These people were vacillating back and forth, sort of. James, the whole recipient of James is that way, because these were dispersion Jews. They weren't Palestinian Jews. They were dispersion Jews. We'll talk more about that later. We didn't really cover that in verse 1 at all. But this is referring to those who have a habit of allowing themselves to be taken in tow by wrong thinking. I'm telling you, we are rife with that today. And people love, it seems like, to be taken in tow with wrong thinking. It produces a sense of maybe excitement, something new. I would like something new, especially as it has to do with prophecy. I want something new, a new insight. Can anybody have a right date and time when Jesus is coming back? And who is the Hanukkah? What is it? That's all a bunch of trash. That's not it. It's not it. When we become taken in tow by all that kind of thing. I can remember back as far as I can, in a way. And especially in Bible college, there were those critters that came around that had all a special insight, a special prophetic insight on this and that. No, that's just not it. And they get all excited. Stop allowing yourself to be taken in tow, is what he's saying. And they were in a habit of doing that. We have to be careful who we listen to, and what we do, what we say, and how we act. Be careful of the people whom we listen to. There's an epidemic of that today, of the falseness that comes out there. Hidden contradictions that are in these slick messages that gloss over what they're really doing and to confuse and deceive people. The truth is they are idols. They are falsities, which means they're wrong. They're idols. Here's the picture. When one listens and pays attention to all of that junk, allowing oneself to be taken in tow, one gleefully allows oneself to be led down a certain path, a way of thinking here. We don't have to open ourselves up to that, but we do. I know. I was told by a former, former colleague, but still a colleague. He was invited to sit in a conference that was an indoctrination into a certain way of thinking. I tell you the truth, it was a G12 indoctrination kind of thing. And he was there, paid all the fees and all that kind of stuff, and it was sitting right next to somebody else who was there, and they two were partners in that for a while. This one I'm referring to was only there maybe for a day or maybe two at the most, and then saw what was underneath all of that mess and got out of there. He refused to subject himself any further to all of that stuff. He tried to get his friend to go with him, and the friend refused to go. So the friend took the whole thing and got fully indoctrinated and became a leading mentor in that whole thing, leading all kinds of other people into that false and erroneous way of doing things, thinking that it was right. Now, why is it that the one could see through the mess and pull himself away, and the other, I would suspect, probably could see through it, but maybe not. But a lot of times they do see through it, and in spite of being able to see through it, they still go that way. There is something on the inside that they just can't resist it. It's so much fun. So much fun. That's what's happening today. So anyway, when that happens, we fall into falseness, and once you fall into that, it doesn't stop there. It keeps going. It's contagious. It feeds upon itself here. Now, the fact that this verb, stop allowing yourself to be taken to, is a passive voice, indicates that once a person actively yields to such stimulation as somewhat of what I just described, something takes over which the person has no control. That's the emphasis of the passive voice. James, that's why this is so powerful. James says, get a hold of yourself. Wake up and smell the coffee here. which is good. And stop allowing yourself to be taken in tow. Don't listen, get out of the way. Once you decipher, get out to saving yourself. I remember I used to go to Curacao, the island of Curacao, a lot, with Ernst and Milan, who were tremendous people, and their daughters, Xandra and Renata. They were twins, and they were tremendous Christians and devout believers, and did a lot for the church work in Curacao. I went down with them and did a lot of work with them too. We started a Bible college down there and started a church down there with Ernst. And I remember many times I would visit the entrance to the harbor at our restaurant there and get a table outside and get a little bit of something with a coffee and read and watch the ships come into the harbor there. And I noticed that there in Willemstad, Curacao, whenever a ship was about to enter into the harbor, the ship had to anchor offshore and not come in on its own. It had to wait for a tugboat to come and get it. And sometimes there was 3, maybe even 4 tugboats that would come, depending on the size of the ship, I guess, and maybe the currents in the channel, I'm not sure. But they would go out and get the ship. What was happening here? Well, that large vessel was allowing itself to be taken in tow by smaller vessels. Now that big ship, it had all the power it needed to stop and to go backwards or whatever it needed to do, but it put its, as far as I know, put its engines in neutral, as it were, and let the tugs take it in tow. The point here, it surrendered itself to outside forces for an end advantage. It was going somewhere. It had to get there, so it surrendered itself to a lesser power to take it through a channel that had the turbulence in there and the force of the currents necessitated that to be done, which is a good thing. But the point is, it surrendered itself to that lesser power to be towed through. It allowed itself to be towed. James is saying, don't do that. Stop it. Wake up and smell the coffee, if you will. Now, how is it that one would allow themselves to be taken in tow? It's up before. If you go to verse 14, each person is tempted to sin out of one's own idiosyncratic desires that are yet unfulfilled. That's how being taken in tow happens. Something comes along with, and one of these things, yeah, I'll be taken, yeah, that's a good way to think about it. I can get around, I can make an end run around that. That's what's happening here. James refers to this allowing of ones to be taken in tow as in verse 20 of chapter 2, as a faith that is unemployed. Unemployed. A lot of believers have their faith. They haven't lost their faith. Even if they turn their back on God, they haven't lost their faith. They still have it. Their object has changed, that's all. But their faith is unemployed. James says in verse 20, it's a very comical way of putting it. So verse 17a, verse 16 is a short. Verse 17a says this: every good gift and every perfect gift are from above, is the New King James translation. Now, when I first wrote this way back in late 80s, 1980s, not the 1880s, the 1980s, 88, 89, 90, or whatnot, I used the New King James then. I wouldn't use it now. I would use the New American Standard. So I've revised all this, but I'm going to go back through and redo all the verses and pull them into the NASB instead of the King James. NASB is better. But every good gift and every perfect gift are from above, it says. And it says it like this. The emphasis is on singular, which is each one. Each act of giving is good. Now, I know it's translated in your translation as gift, but you need to write in there act of giving. This isn't focusing on the gift, it's focusing on the act of giving. He says here, each act of giving, and then each gift itself is he says is perfect. We got to explain that, and is from above. from above. Now we got to unpack all this, okay? This is coming from God. James has just told us here is that if their faith is going to be effective and be efficient, of necessity, it has to come to terms with the right view of existence. I would say we all ought to know that, and if we don't, we should. So it's a good time to learn it. And we have to have a right view of why things happen as they do in our life, as James talks about in chapter 1. In other words, we're to stop allowing ourselves to be influenced and taken in tow by the goofy thinking of this world, and in the church world too, by false teaching when it comes to why things happen as they do in our life and what's going on in this world. When it comes to relationship between poor and rich, as we had in verses 9, 10, and 11, and when it source of temptation to sin of verse 14 and 15, and now with the goodness and the purpose of God here, we need to understand these rightly. I am appalled, I don't know if the word appalled is right, but taken back, I guess, at the people that just don't understand what a verse really is talking about and the background of it and whatnot. And that's what we need to learn what is behind here, the very nature of the thing. It's time to learn and be totally persuaded by the truth that God is for us. And He is involved in every detail of our life. This many-colored daily situations over here that we keep going to. It's time we get this anchored and embedded in our mind. It is God who is in control of everything. Our lives, and not the circumstances of life, and certainly not Satan in control of it. That really isn't just the case. It may look like it isn't, but it's not the case. God is in control. Now, let's look at these gifts here. The particular ending of the word gift, the first one in verse 17. Each act of giving. Why do I translate that as an act of giving? I translate that as an act of giving because of the ending of the word. It's the same word that we're going to have right on later here, a gift. But the ending of this word is this. In other words, it's an S-I-S. That's the ending of the word. All right? That's the ending of the word. And the ending of the other word for gift is this. It'll come across in English as that. Okay? The first one is dosis. The second one is dorema. They're both from the same root, give. Now this first one here, that particular ending, the endings on the Greek words are very important. This refers to an individual act of giving. Now, when they translated that every gift is good, that's I can't help but say, but that's wrong. That's a wrong translation. The word is referring to an individual act of giving, and let me tell you, this is important. Now we're going to get to the gift itself here in just a little bit, but this is talking about the act of giving. The act of giving. The act of giving is this. God's got something here. Got something here. And the act of Him giving it over to you, that act is good. It's a good act. It's a good action of giving. What has He given us? He's given us His Son, Jesus Christ, who came and offered Himself as the perfect sacrifice for our sin. He's given us that gift. He has acted in sending Jesus. That is an action of God giving us salvation. That act is a good act. That's what we're talking about. The action of it is the action of it that is important here. So this is describing a free act of giving, a free act of beneficial donation, no strings attached, no strings attached. Okay? It is an act of giving. Now remember, we had that earlier we talked about God is the one who continually gives earlier in chapter 1. We could almost say God's a large donor. To the human race, He's a large donor. In verse 5, that word describes the inner disposition of God. Verse 17 here, it's referring to the individual act of giving. I think that James is wanting to draw a comprehensive picture of the giving nature of God, which includes the act of giving of God, the act of his giving too. His gifts, the action of his gifts are always good. This word good, and from above, we'll describe that more in a second here. Good is agathos. Agathos. It refers to that which is something that is excellent or fine or beneficent, generous, upright, virtuous, all of which describe the quality of a gift. The quality of a gift. Each act of giving has quality to it. What kind of a quality? An eternal quality to it. That's what we're talking about. Each and every act of giving is intrinsically good. The action is intrinsically, there's something intrinsically good about this action. The action has nothing to do with the gift. It's the action of giving is intrinsically good. This word good means something that is not going to vanish, something that will not dissipate. I learned that word from my granddaughter, dissipate. Something that is not going to go away, something that is not going to be lost, something that's not going to rot, something that's not going to corrode. It's something that's really is going to last forever. It's an eternal quality about this. Action of giving has an eternal quality about it. We were in Sydney, Australia in 1995. Had a crusade in the Philippines and went on to Bill Pryor's church in I don't know, Coolangatta or Tweedheads and Coolangatta, somewhere there, and it was Lakeside Church. His daughter Naomi Pryor Stacy is starting a church in that area too, and she's really a good one over there. So if you're in that area, look her up if you need a place to go. But we were at Bill's church, and one night we went out for a pizza after the teaching. I taught there for a week or more, and we were at a pizza place, and so I ordered what I like, pepperoni sausage pizza. Man, I'm telling you, was it ever good? A thin crust. It was a really good pizza. So and it was a Greek place, by the way. It was a Greek restaurant, as a matter of fact. And they had this pizza, and it was a tremendous pizza. So on the bill, I wrote a note on the back, and I put, "Thank you for your service. This pizza was truly agathon." Good. And the guy came to me and said, "What are you saying here? What is this agathon?" And I said, you are Greek, and you do not know what that means?" He said, "Yeah, I know what it means. He means that something that's going to last a long time." I said, "Exactly. That's good. That's what this is." I said, there is a quality about this pizza that's never going to go away. The quality about this pizza that's going to stay with me the rest of my life. I will remember it as long as I live. It is intrinsically good and lasting and everlasting. That is God's action towards us. His movement towards us is that way. Now, if you have a movement of a credit card company after you, I get less now, but used to get advertisements in the mail saying, "Sign up for this credit card. It's only this percent, and you get this great high credit ceiling and all of that." And they act like they're really doing you a favor and they really care about you. When the truth is, they couldn't give two hoots or a holler about you. They don't care about you. They have no idea who you are. That is them an act of giving, but it's not a good act of giving. It is an act of giving that wants to get in your wallet and get everything you got. That's not how the action of God is. God's action for us it's not temporal. It's not fleeting. It doesn't run away. It doesn't dissipate. Thanks to Macy. It doesn't do that. It sticks with us. Each act, that's not even talking about the gift. Each act of God giving is good. Now, we're going to get involved here, and I don't think we're going to finish this paragraph before our time is up. We'll have to do it again later, but we'll just keep going as far as we can, if that's all right. Each act of giving is considered good. Now, let's take a look at the background of this word here some more. The Greek sophist considered good to be that which was pleasant. If it's pleasant, it's good. If it's not pleasant, it's not good. Well, that's very subjective, wouldn't you think? And that is pinned to us. We determine that then. So whatever it is that seems pleasant, that's considered a good action. That which they considered to be pleasant is completely defined by their own individual standard of pleasant and not pleasant, and their standard of measurement by what is or what isn't pleasant. That is a standard humanistic approach, and it throws out, it negates any sense of higher authority at all relative to deciphering between what is pleasant or what is good and what isn't. Now, Plato said that the good, this agathos you're talking about, was the eternal realm of what he said forms or ideas. It was there, something that we couldn't get at. He's close to what it means there. And he emphasizes the idea of the transcendence of the good. Now catch that. I should stand up and write that, but I'm not going to. Transcendence. Plato describes the transcendence of the word agathos, of the good. In other words, this then, as it applies to our verse, each act of God giving something to you comes from a transcendent God who is far and away lifted up above all this temporal order. It is that. That's the good. Aristotle, who was a pupil of Plato, went differently. He held that the concept of good was determined from within humanity, thus emphasizing the eminence, the idea of the eminence of determining what's pleasant and what is good. That comes from in here. That's what's happening today. It's happening in this country relative to the Constitution and everything else all over the place. Well, I feel like I identify as a cat today. I feel that. Well, if that's how you feel, you are a cat today. You may be a tiger tomorrow, or maybe a whale. I'm picking. I get a picture in my mind. All of that kind of stuff. No, that's not good. That's sort of an Aristotelian here. All right. It comes from the immanent. It's inside. It comes from the inside. We determine. So there's either a transcendent or an immanence. Well, we can't determine that. That's left with God. But when God gives something, it has a transcendent idea, and it's not limited to how we feel or what we want or how we determine. I would suggest, by the way, that you locate Jean Edward Veith, V as in Victor, E-I-T-H, Jean, G-E-N-E, Edward Veith's book, Modern Fascism, The Threat to the Judeo-Christian Worldview. He will deal with this kind of issue there. It is really good. The fascism and the globalism today and all the deconstruction stuff that we see in the church world today and all the G12 and the this and that, all that kind of goofy stuff, the new ecclesia, all of that is very much in line with the whole idea of global fascism, which is anti-transcendent, is the point here. Let me tell you, there are only two religions in the world that believe in a monos, a one and only transcendent God, and that's Judaism and true Christianity, not the fake Christianity of today. The transcendent God who is good. A transcendent God indicates a higher moral. It is the Jewishness. That's why Hitler had to get rid of the Jews. They represented that. That's why we see the pressure on anti-Semitism today and against Christianity. Why? It's because we represent the transcendent God that has limits and that has a transcendent morality. Has nothing to do with how we feel and the emotive nonsense around here. It is fixed. Well, we can't have that. We can't even have that in the church world today. And so it's devising all these alternative ways and are deconstructing the faith. And that's going on in more ways than we know. Anyway, historically, the people who represented the higher standard are Jews and Christians. These are the only two peoples who historically have done that. And so in order to combat the reality of a transcendent God, a fixed God, that constantly looks evil straight and directly in the eye and says, no, you can't do that. That's what they're fighting against here. Then they have to get rid of that transcendence, and that's where comes the immanence. And so now we are deciding what is right and what is wrong, between good and bad, between faith and unfaith and all of that. That comes from the emotional, feeling side of humanity. What did James say in verse 14? From every idiosyncratic propensity that's in us. That temptation to sin comes from our own idios, our own idiosyncratic intentions and desires that are out there. That's globalism. That is progressive Christianity that is now deconstructing faith and all of that. And it's a current rebellion that's very active today against deconstruction. Is a rebellion against the transcendence of God, placing Him immanent within us. We are going to reevaluate. We are going to determine it's not a transcendent God. It's a rebellion against the transcendent of God, and it is sinful. It is apostate. It is evil. Deconstruction is. Now, it's like Aristotle. The biblical use of this word good, agathos, relates to salvation. What's the gift God to give us? His act of giving, essentially what? Salvation. Salvation in Christ. Is that a good action to us? Or is it an evil action? Every good act, is that a good act or an evil act? Is it a benefit to us or an anti-benefit to us? Is it going to result in our salvation or our damnation? What is it? Why would anybody want to go against what God's action to us, giving us His Son to save our soul for eternity and set us free from all this mess? Why is it the church will have to go back into that mess and deconstruct what God has done to make it more like themselves? It's rebellion against a transcendent God. A rebellion against a transcendent God. A rebellion against a transcendent God. And the church world's full of that today. Now, the biblical use of the term relates to salvation, as we said. We are presently being saved. We are saved. We're presently being saved. It's ongoing and it's future. And that is very pleasing to God. It's a good, His action is good. But in this other stuff, the humanistic philosophy is brought back up. But in the God's view of good, the biblical view of good, humanism and all of that is thrown aside. It's not part of it. Good is related to God alone in the Bible. Jesus said, who's good? There's only one good, and that one good is God. It's not humanity. Humanity is, Paul said in Romans 7, there is no good thing in this body of mine, in this person. There is no good thing. And the word there is agathos. Agatha. There is no good thing. Why is it so difficult for humanity to say it's not good? It's not good. But God has come and sent Jesus. His act of giving is good. He put Christ in our heart. If we accept Him, that action is good, and that changes us. Why wouldn't anybody want that? I can't fathom that, honestly. I marvel. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's an incredible thing. God is the only intrinsic, eternal, ultimate good. It's God, not me and not you. Everything He does, or everything He allows to take place is ultimately good. May not see the end result right away, but it is good, intrinsically good and valuable. In fact, He has the innate ability to make whatever looks evil or bad or is a good. He can transpose it, He can change it, He can fix it. He can fix your life. He can fix anything in it. Therefore, each act of giving of God is an intrinsic and an inherent, ultimate, eternal good. It's good. Whether something is good or bad must be determined by our relationship to God. Our relationship to God. It looked at in His terms. Now, every perfect gift is the next line. Every act of giving is good. And each and every gift is perfect. That doesn't mean flawless, for crying out loud. It doesn't mean that. It does not address an act of giving. This is addressing the gift itself. And this one is dorema. The ending is here. That's how we know what it's talking about. It's the same word, but it's telling us the result of the action. The result of God's action of giving, act of giving, the result of his act of giving is the gift. And this is what we're talking about now. The gift. What is it? Every good act of giving, qualitative, results in a perfect gift. The word perfect comes from the word telos. We got it way over there. It means end. It means end result. It's talking about the final consummation of all things. Well, what is that telling us? God doesn't just go around filling our every whim and wish and desire. I want this, I want that. Oh, I get this. Good. Let's go shopping. All that. God's not in that kind of business. He's not just giving us frivolous, stupid things that don't amount to anything. His action to us, first of all, is intrinsically valuable in and of itself, and then that which he gives us has an eternal quality too. That what it means is it's going to last forever. The gift that he gives you does not come out of... Look at this. Here we are in one of these situations. We pointed this one out the other day. Yesterday, I guess it was. Right there, we're in that situation. It's a situation wherein we can exercise belief and believe God's with us and stay in our chair, or we can jump out of it. We can do that. But we're going to stay there, regardless of how shaky it may get. We're going to remain under abide this thing and allow that to work patience, and more of our faith is going to be validated. Okay? So what do we do? I ask God, God help me here. God help me. So God, I don't want to write on here too much because I got to end up erasing it, but it's okay. So God talks to us. He sends from here, from eternity where he is, he sends to us the Holy Spirit. Okay? The Holy Spirit, when we're praying to God, he comes and God speaks to us through that Holy Spirit or through his word here. And his action, he comes to us. That action is a good action. It's a good action. Why? Because of from where it comes. It's coming from God himself out here. It's Jesus, the end, hope, love, joy, all of that is out there. It's an action. It's an action. He's coming to us. He's coming to us. It's an act of giving. The act of giving is good. And when he comes to us in here, he does something for us in here. Transforms. Changes. Meets the need. Speaks to us. We know what's going on. That is the gift. The text here says that which he deposits in us is this here. Telos, translated as perfect. It does not mean flawless perfection, and it's a pity it's translated perfect. But only if you understand what it means could you translate it perfect, I suppose. But even then it doesn't mean flawless perfection. Why is it perfect? Because it's coming from the end. It's coming from eternity out here. It's coming from this out here. He's bringing some of this into here and depositing in us. That gift is this. End-oriented is the word. Use the word end-oriented. The gift itself, we are going to discover, is an end-oriented gift. What in the world is that talking about? An end-oriented gift. It means it's always pointing to the end. It means it's a gift that will keep us for eternity. It's the gift that will keep on giving, if you will, all the way through eternity. It's the end result. James uses it earlier in the chapter in verses 3. In verse 3, where have I got it here? Let patience but have its perfect work, so that we will be perfect. The same word. It doesn't mean flawless perfection. It means we are to let under abiding here have its end-oriented result, so that we will be end-oriented people. Because in the middle of this, when we're praying, God is going to send the Holy Spirit to us, and that action of sending the Holy Spirit is an eternally good action. That's an action that's not going to dissipate. That action is good. It's well intended. And the gift he deposits comes from here. It's taking us out there. That's what's going on here. Now, in the Philippines, when a boy wants to date a girl, it used to be more that way here than what it certainly is now, but has to go to the dad and ask permission to court the daughter, and he has to prove to the father that his intentions are good, and that which he is going to do is going to last. In other words, that the act of this guy coming to the daughter to court her, that action is a good action. It's an action that's not coming to take advantage of the daughter, but it's an action that is good, intrinsically valuable. Its good intentions are good. And that the end result of this coming together, supposing they assure the father that that the action is good and that his intentions, the gift, if you will, is going to have has an end-oriented purpose out there. And that's what the gift that God gives us has, an end-oriented purpose. Look, it's not just for this. It's not just for that. All of these other things that we've come through and gone through, God has done the same thing to us and does it all the way through here. He comes to his act to us. Every one of these has that. His act is coming to us. The act of coming is good. And that which he deposits here is eternally, it's end-oriented. It's not just for now, it's for here. It's not just for back here, it's for here, and here. We're headed that way. So that James says earlier, to restate what he said, so that when we get out here, we won't come up short. In all of these good actions of God coming to us, and all of these end-oriented gifts being in us, we're not going to be missing any. I don't know about you, but I don't want to miss any. I probably missed quite a few. But I don't want to miss any more. I want his action to us is good, and he's going to deposit something. It's going to take me on through eternity and help me live there. What we are, what we will become out here, and what we are going to be out here, we are now becoming through this process that James is talking about. I'm telling you, this book of James is more powerful than anybody can shake a stick at, as somebody used to say. It's more powerful than what you think. Most people think, oh, it's a legalistic book. It's this. It's against Paul. It's anti-Paul. I was castigated for writing about James because I was accused of being legalistic. That Larry is against grace. He's legalistic. He's not for that. He believes you got to do something to be saved, and that's all a crock. That's not what this is talking about. That means those people who said that, they don't know what's cooking. They don't know what's going on. You just got to consider it and pitch it out. This is a powerful book here. We need to learn it more. And we're going to stop right here because of time. And we'll pick it up right here. And it's a good place to stop. We're not even through the second verse yet. Verse 17, we're halfway there. Let me just reorientate where we are. And then we're going to get this. It's really good. We didn't even deal with the idea of above quality. The gift itself is perfect gift. It is qualitative gift out here, and it says here it is from above. The from above is an adverb, and it's actually modifying the word is, actually enhancing that. So the gift itself that is deposited here comes from here, so it's end oriented, and that gift. The act of giving and the gift itself is pictured as, if you picture this as above, as an above quality. It comes from God above, from heaven. It's an above quality. It's not a below quality. What God's action to us doesn't come from below. God's gift that he puts in us isn't from below. It's from above. It's godly. It's righteous. It's holy. It's pure. It's righteous. It doesn't mean you're righteous or you're flawless or you're perfect. It doesn't mean that. It has nothing to do with that. That's not even what the words mean. But that is. And he deposits it here for us. For now, but not really just for now. It's for where we're going. These people today are more anxious for now, and with no thought of where we're going. We got to remember where we're going. Anyway, we're going to stop there, and I'll pick it up here. I got to mark the place where I am, and we'll pick it up. I'm going to write the word here, right here. That's what we're going to do, all right? Hey, God's with us, and this is fun. I'm enjoying this. I don't know how many times I've been through here, but every time I go through it, we get a little more, all right? So anyway, have a good day, have a good week, whatever. We'll see you the next time we come and do another one of these. Take care.